Today we will be making a lily of the valley wreath. You'll need extra fine crepe paper in juniper and fern. We'll also be using cardstock in this jelly bean green and white. You're going to want a 10-inch embroidery hoop, as well as some 24-gauge green wire. The rest of your tools and materials can be found in the post. Let's get started. Go ahead and grab all of the flower pieces that are cut from cardstock. I cut mine using a Cricut machine, but you could also cut them by hand or using another cutting machine. First, we need to shape these petals in the flower center. This is a wool felting mat, and it has a little bit of squish to it. I'm going to place my petal set on top and then take a steel ball shaping tool, and I'm going to roll the ball over each petal in a circle to cup each petal. The petals should curl up a little bit as you do this. After you've done that on each petal, we're also going to roll the ball in the center of the petal to cup it as well. Next, take the kind of flower-shaped center, and we're going to roll our ball over it in a circle as well, and this should bring the sides of the center up. Next, we're going to take some white glue using the Barely Art Precision Craft Glue. Then grab your steel ball tool again, and to shape this flower, I'm actually going to place it over the top of the steel ball. Just kind of make sure it's over one of the steel balls that all the petals can fully go around it while overlapping each other just a bit. And take it off, and I'm going to pull up every other petal like this. And those 3 petals that are down, I'm going to take my glue and apply a little bit of glue to the kind of center edge of each petal. I'm applying the glue just a little bit on the edge of each of these petals that is still down, and I'm holding on to these 3 upper petals. After I've added that glue, I'm going to place the steel ball in the center, bring those petals down, and then I'm going to bring the petals that are up down and over the glue on those other petals, and this will hold everything together. Once you've got all those petals down, go ahead and press around with your fingers until the glue can hold everything together on its own. Then I'm going to pull the steel ball out very gently. I'm going to set this aside so that that glue can dry. Next, we're going to glue our centerpieces onto a 24-gauge wire. You're going to need your needle nose tweezers. We're going to grab this stamen piece. I'm going to grab it at the base on one edge. I'm going to go ahead and roll the stamen piece around the tip of my tweezers. This is just to get a nice rounded shape so that it can easily roll around the tip of our wire. So I'm going to open it back up, add some white glue all over, and then I'm going to wrap it around the tip of my 24-gauge wire. Next, grab your other center piece, and we're going to slide it onto the wire just underneath that stamen. I'm going to add just a little bit of glue under the stamen. It'll hold that center piece in place. And then I'm going to grab my flower and slide that on as well. And I'm going to add a little bit of glue just under the white center, sliding those flower petals on. Then we can set that aside to dry. Next, you'll take a strip of the fern crepe paper. We're going to use this to just wrap the stem underneath the flower. Go ahead and apply some glue, and I'm only going to wrap about 3 inches down my wire. I like to stretch the end of my wrap before I begin. Be sure you're stretching the crepe paper as you wrap. Next, you're going to need your curling tool. We're going to very gently curl up the tip of each petal. Make sure the glue is dry that's holding together your flower petals before you do this step. So I'm just using my thumbnail to grab the tip of the petal and then bending it back to curl it. I'm just doing this over the edge of the curling tool. There's your finished flower. Now we're going to move on and make our bud. To make your bud, you're going to need your 24-gauge wire, an 8mm spun ball, and a strip of the fern crepe paper. We're going to begin by wrapping the top 3 inches of wire with that fern crepe paper. So I'm adding a little bit of glue to the top of my wire, stretching out the end of my wrap to start, and then wrapping the wire. Again, make sure you're stretching the crepe paper as you wrap. Just tear off the end when you've wrapped that 3 inches of wire. Then there should be a hole in the bottom of your spun ball, and you can just place some white glue in there, and then push the tip of the wire into that hole, gluing in place. You can then set this bud aside to dry. Next, we're going to build a stem of these lily of the valley flowers. So take 1 or 2 buds that you've made, and then 3 to 5 flowers. Go ahead and take your pliers. We're going to bend the bud down, just like so, and do this to all of your flowers as well. You're also going to need a strip of juniper crepe paper. We're going to start with our bud and one of our flowers, and place the flower just a little bit below the bud, adding some white glue to the wires just below the flower, and then using the strip of juniper crepe paper to attach them together. Wrap around the wires, wrapping down about 1/2 inch to 1 inch. And then we're going to add a second flower, add some glue to the wires, then continue wrapping around, including that second flower. Then after wrapping down another 1/2 inch to 1 inch, you can add your third flower. I'm going to go ahead and trim the ends of my wires so they're all even, and so my full stem is about 7 inches long. Now I'm going to continue wrapping all the way down to cover my wires. And you're going to make many stems of these flowers. And you want some variety with how many flowers and buds are on each stem. So you can see I have some with just 2 flowers and no buds. Got some with 2 buds and 5 flowers. In total here I have 9 stems of flowers, and I'll be adding all of these onto my wreath. For our next step, we're going to shape our leaves. We're going to need your leaves that you cut out. You should have a larger leaf and a smaller leaf, and then your curling tool. And to shape our leaves, I'm going to hold the curling tool gently in my hand with my thumb on one side. I'm going to place my leaf over the edge, and I'm going to gently push it over the edge of the curling tool with my thumb over the leaf and pressing into the edge of the curling tool as I move it across the leaf, and go from both sides of the leaf to really cup it. So you have this nice rounded shape. And now I'm going to flip the leaf over so that cup is shaping up. And now I'm going to curl down just the edges of the leaf all the way around, just like so. And we're going to do the same shape with the smaller leaf as well. You're going to want to shape all of your leaves just like this. Now that all of our leaves are shaped, we're going to organize them in the piles of the smaller leaves and the larger leaves. And then you'll grab your 10-inch embroidery hoop. And I've just taken the center hoop out of the embroidery hoop. You'll also need your hot glue gun for this step. So we're going to begin adding the leaves around our hoop. I'm going to start at the top of my hoop, grabbing a large leaf and a small leaf, and I'm going to glue them together just like this, using a little bit of white glue. And I'm going to place them underneath my hoop and just kind of figure out where I want them to be. And once I've found the right placement, I'm going to fold the base of the leaves around the embroidery hoop, just kind of pinching them underneath the hoop. And once I have this pinched shape, I'm going to add some hot glue there, and then place it right back onto the hoop and just hold it in place until that glue dries. Then going to take 2 more leaves, a large and a small one. I do the same thing where I put a little bit of white glue on the large leaf and then glue the smaller leaf on top, have them slightly angled out in a V shape. And I have this positioned so that the smaller leaf is always on my right and will always be on the inside of the hoop, and the larger leaf is on the outside of the hoop. We're then going to place it underneath the hoop again and just kind of position it where we'd like it to be. I like the leaves overlapping a little bit, and then I'm going to pinch the paper up and around the bottom of that hoop. Once I have that shape pinched into the paper, I'm going to add my hot glue. Go ahead and glue it into place. We're going to keep adding our leaves to our hoop in the same way until you've gone all the way around the hoop. I'm going to try and space these as evenly as I can as I'm going around. When you get to your last couple sets of leaves, I'm going to make sure that they're spaced nicely before you glue them into place. So I'm going to kind of lay them about where I want them to be on the wreath, before gluing anything down. Placing our last set of leaves can be a little difficult. You need to work around that first leaf that you placed. Just make sure it's overlapping about the same amount as all of the other ones, just like so. And now we're going to add our flowers. We're also going to be using the hot glue gun to add our flowers. And before we add them, I'm just going to kind of place them where I think I want them to lay. Kind of bending the wire in the shape of the hoop so that the flowers can lay along it. And some of them you're going to add to the inside of the hoop and some you are going to want to add to the outside. But you just want to make sure you lay them down in place before you glue anything, just so you can get an idea of how it's going to look. Saving the longer flower stems for the outside, just because they cover more space. I have these smaller sets of 2 I'm going to go ahead and add in to fill any gaps. All right, I think I like how this looks. I'm going to leave everything in place and just pick up the one that I want to glue down. So I'm going to begin here, and I'm just adding a very small amount of hot glue to where it's going to touch the wood hoop and the leaf below it. This hot glue is really strong once it dries, so you don't need very much, and you want to use as little as possible so you're not seeing any hot glue. Maybe even trying to hide it underneath the leaves where you can. I'm just going to work my way around. Once you have all of those flowers glued into place, you can kind of move them around since they're on wires to fill in any spaces. You can turn the flowers so that they face more forward instead of out. Bend them in more to maybe overlap the wooden wreath. And once you're done adjusting all those flowers, your wreath is complete. You can try and remove any of the hot glue strings just by pulling them away. Then you can go ahead and hang your wreath on the wall to enjoy. Thanks for crafting with me today.